Hello, everyone. Today is Wednesday, June the 21st. This is
First day of summer.
yeah, the summer solstice is but this is that yesterday and today, this 24-hour period. It's really interesting. It's really oh,
Oh, who's that?
Richard's just coming in. That's
Oh,
great.
good.
So, when we think about hi Richard, how you doing? So when we think about the summer solstice and the energy that it distributes, when we think about the winter solstice, in the winter we begin to that period of hibernation, so we begin to take in. But in where we are now, we are in that the energy that is distributing, providing, it is enforcing, so when we think of that, just think of that in our daily lives, that while we are here in this energy, we can use it productively. This is the time that we be our most productive. And it makes sense because summer is that time of planting and bringing things into working hard to bring things into fruition. Yeah. So I always think of the 7 and the 8 of Pentacles with those when things that we're talking about hard work. Well, let's go ahead and open for prayer. Would anyone like to pray us in? Okay, I will. So as we were speaking of earlier, let's just take in this energy of the summer solstice. And with that, we see ourselves completely and totally illumined. The amount of energy, the light that proceeds from that, the directions that is that the light is penetrating into, all of these things we begin to understand, to know that is who we are. We are filled with the completeness of creation. These bodies, these temples, these instruments that we claim ourselves to be through ego is energized and revitalized and cleansed because of the dynamic power that is coming into our minds and our hearts and our bodies at this time. And as we settle into this day of learning, not only of what we glean from A Course in Miracles, but also from our conversations and from our insights. And if we can, at this point in time, each and every time we take a breath or if it comes to our thoughts, let's see if we feel the connection that each of us is, how each of us is connected to one another. And as we understand that, and as we look forward to this time of learning, we just sit back and just have so much gratitude. We're so thankful. Well, first of all, the opportunity to come together and to share with one another and with people of a like mind. We are grateful and heartfelt because we know that everything that we are is because of who each of us are. That we're not islands off to ourselves, but we are all connected and interconnected. and through that filling of creation. And with that gratitude, we just release power into our thoughts and into our bodies. If there's any place in our body that needs healing, we put that power, that energy into that healing of that area. If there are any spots in our hearts or our minds, we allow that healing energy, that sunshine, to focus in and to put its healing energy and light into our consciousness. We release into our environment, in our homes, this same energy of love and light and laughter and joy. We release the same energy into our personal circles, our friends and coworkers and neighbors. And as we continue to allow this energy to extend and expand, we allow it to be in our counties, our nation. And with that, we allow it to be within all of this planet, Earth, and this world, whatever worlds we claim to be ours. And as we continue to allow ourselves to be expanded and to be expressed, we allow the Creator itself to express itself through us, as us. And with that, we say, and so it is.
And so it is.
And so it is.
All right. Thank you very much. Harriet, would you like to start reading on? Oh, you know what? I didn't even say what we were doing today. I was so busy talking about the solar solstice. Today this is our Course in Miracles. We are in chapter 3, the innocent perception. And we are continuing in that first section, atonement without sacrifice. And we will be reading from paragraph 4. Okay, Harriet.
Okay. Paragraph 4 reads, sacrifice is a notion totally unknown to God. It arises solely from fear, and frightened people can be vicious. Sacrificing in any way is a violation of my injunction that you should be merciful, even as your Father in heaven is merciful. It has been hard for many Christians to realize that this applies to themselves. Good teachers never terrorize their students. To terrorize is to attack, and this results in rejection of what the teacher offers. The result is learning failure. Very interesting paragraph. And my first thought, sacrifice. What is sacrifice?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And according to A Course in Miracles, the glossary of A Course in Miracles, the act of voluntarily losing something in order to gain something else, B, for the sake of a deity, or C, for the sake of another person or some worthy cause. Sacrifice is totally unknown to God, and that's one of the sentences that we've already read, for he only gives without cost and knows nothing of loss. It's quite an extensive definition that they have here. But when I look at the metaphysical meaning of the word sacrifice, a refining process that is constantly going on in consciousness, the renunciation of old beliefs that seem good for new ideas that are more of the nature of Christ.
What was fun?
Huh?
More in the nature of.
Wait.
Yeah, read that last sentence again.
Oh, a refining process that is constantly going on in consciousness the renunciation of old beliefs that seem good for new ideas that are more of the nature of Christ.
Mm.
I'm not sure I quite understand that last part of that. The renunciation of old beliefs that seem good for new ideas that are more of the nature of Christ.
Yeah,
I-
that's yeah. To me, that just simply means growth. Like you've outgrown something. You know, it
Okay.
used to be good for you. It used to be good for you, but now that you've outgrown it now. Still,
Oh,
not that it's bad. It's just that
you've outgrown it,
you've outgrown it. Yeah.
or you've grown beyond it. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That
And
to
it's
me, that to me, is a little bit more of my understanding of sacrifice, more so the little bit more than a course. I mean, what was read in the Course in Miracles glossary.
mhm.
Yes, because it's because they said that sacrifice was
Totally unknown to God.
but they saw it as a loss, right? It wasn't
Yeah,
it.
the act of voluntarily losing something,
Yeah,
A, in order to gain something else,
yeah.
B, for the sake of a deity, or C, for the sake of another person or some worthy cause. So in other words, you're giving up something for something else.
Right. Loss.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. Go ahead, Richard.
so this is what's sticking for me is that it seems like the issue to me isn't the fact that you're giving something up, but that you're perceiving that as a loss.
Mhm.
So it's not so, because that's why I was trying to sit here and wrap my head around is that, we think of Jesus and the crucifixion as a sacrifice. But if we think about it less, if we take away this idea of loss, which is what we talked about a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
then it becomes something else. So it's not the fact that we don't do for others, but it's doing for others with the idea that I'm losing something. Does that make sense to y'all? Is that what y'all are picking up?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. For me, that's why I said I like the metaphysical definition, and that came from did you get that from Revealing Word?
Yes.
Just in Richard, I don't know, we're we were metaphysicians from, so we kind of like all over the place.
That's all right. That's all right.
We got little bits of this and little bits of that. So
right.
The Revealing Word that comes from Charles. Are you familiar with the Revealing Word?
No, I'm not.
Okay, it comes from.
Are you familiar with unity?
Say again?
Are you familiar with unity?
What do you mean? Like, I'm familiar with the term unity, but if there's a
Right.
book or something that you're referring to, then
there's a Christian organization named Unity. It was from Charles and Myrtle Fillmore back in the like 100 years ago. So through that, so the Revealing Word, that last part of the that definition, that I think that the majority of all of us here accept more so than that what the other one says, that came from that. And then he has another one that's called the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary.
Yeah.
So so this really.
No, I was just going to say, basically, the Revealing Word is more or less a more concise definition of keywords from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary.
But to me, that definition where it indicates growth and not loss is more, I guess it perceives better for me.
Mm.
You know, I can see that more clearly than
Right.
what I did, because this right here is saying, but this whole paragraph is saying that's how we were taught. We were terrorized.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
were terrorized, you know, into loving God, you know, or
Mhm.
into being obedient to our parents, or to, you know, what, you know, being a good employee at a job. Everything, you know, everything has a threat along with it, you know.
Exactly.
So I think that this first sentence, sacrifice is a notion totally unknown to God. I think that most people, including myself, up until a time, would not agree with that, because I think that what everyone sees, that God is sacrifice. God sacrificed His only Son. You know, Jesus sacrificed His life. You know, so
That
I would have said that 15. I would have said that 10 minutes ago until you read that definition, and it makes complete sense. Like this is one of those things I'm gonna have to sit on for a week before I start talking publicly about it, because it's gonna be jarring to people. But I
yeah,
get it.
yeah. Um,
yeah, you have to think about how you're going to get your message across without upsetting their apple cart, so to speak.
Well, I mean, I'm less concerned about setting the apple cart as I am about being articulate and you know, being very clear and concise, so that I don't leave room for them to take the words and shift them into their own meaning and try to use them against me. Like this is a very interesting. This is very interesting. I'm sitting here and I'm just cheesing. Wow.
yeah. But that's why I think language is so very important. And it's important that we take our time. And yeah, everybody knows what sacrifice means, but to look at it from different perspectives, you know, we read it, well, we only read it this time from spiritual standpoints, but a lot of times we do look at things, you know, that comes from out of the dictionary, you
Right.
know.
And
So
and basically that's what the glossary from A Course in Miracles, because look at that first sentence. Sacrifice is a notion totally unknown to God. And of course, their definition, the act of voluntarily losing something. And then, of course, it gives the three ways you can lose things.
right.
But and then it goes on to say, it repeats what that first sentence: sacrifice is totally unknown to God. Well, He only gives without cause and knows nothing of loss.
And I think because we humans have been taught, you know, traditionally passed down from one thing to another thing.
And made guilty if somebody sacrifices something for us.
Yeah, because
something.
all of that, because we were taught like that, you know. And but I think that if we had been, and like Richard is saying, that when we begin to teach from different perspectives, not just spiritual here, but spiritual and you know, things that have to do with the manifest, things that have to do with, you know, where we are in our consciousness, you know, meaning the room or the age and the time where we are able to connect truths together, you know, then we'll be able to understand that, yeah, when you think about that whole thing of God sacrificing Jesus and Jesus sacrificing, even that was to give, all of that was designed to give us something, some freedom, or, you know, some different insight, or some a new level of consciousness. All of that is about giving, you know. So I think that how I can see it now is that it is how I'm perceiving, you know. Oh, it is the innocent perception when I'm not dualistic in my mind.
Woo. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. You pulling it out. Like this is bananas, because I'm even looking online right now and I'm seeing people, Christian organizations, talking about God sacrificing his only son. And in this moment right now, it's like you view God as sacrificing because you view Jesus's crucifixion as a loss.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And we place too much emphasis on the crucifixion and perhaps
And not the
not
resurrection.
enough
Exactly.
on exactly. Because
Yeah, because we're
I
so
mean,
connected to this flesh, to the ego. I mean.
right. And the resurrection couldn't happen without the crucifixion.
Right.
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect.
I swear divine just be, they laughing at me right now because I just put a post up earlier today, not an hour ago, where I had a conversation about a guy, because we were talking about the sort of hero complex that sometimes men have with the women in their lives. And I've had to deal with that directly, but that is about being a people pleaser and sacrificing, and we just had this conversation today, and to now sit here and realize how much my whole upbringing was built up around sacrifice to other people, because that's what God wants us to do. And the reality, and that is something that I'm now having to heal over, because of the lack mentality that goes along with the loss. Oh my goodness, this is
powerful punches, right?
Boy. Look, I was questioning my connection earlier this week, and they came back and said, "Oh nah, let's get you right. First of all, get your emotions straight first, and then you'll see. We've been here for a while, and we've been helping you, and we've been, so, gosh, this is powerful."
Yeah, I love A Course in Miracles. I was glad when I found this. You want to move on to number 2?
Sure, I'll read it. It arises solely from fear, and frightened people can be vicious.
Oh,
yeah.
Which
yes.
says a whole lot.
Yes, it does.
Especially in terms of when you understand that sacrifice is associated with the loss, then when people sacrifice, there's fear that's imparted there. And when people, so then it also means that when people sacrifice and that fear kicks in, people who sacrifice can be very vicious. Because it's all wrapped in, Penelope, as you said, the ego.
Yeah. Look at what I gave up for you, making me feel guilty, and you're controlling.
Oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through the night without a Facebook post about this. It's crazy.
Yeah, and when you think about how we have been, we have been indoctrinated with that, since the beginning.
From day one.
Yeah, of our lives. Of our lives. And I think that I think that that's the whole point about that whole concept of resurrection, because death is not an ending. And I think we have been so frightened of an ending that we can't see that that's how things begin. So
yeah, because a seed is dead until you put it in the ground. And
it has to die to grow. It has to die to grow to a plant.
Exactly.
As soon as the seed dies, the plant begins. And I guess if and because religion and a lot of spirituality is based on our trying to learn how to navigate ourselves in this world. You know, we have not always been aware of how things work in the mind, and or the brain even, you know. So so now that we're beginning to understand that we don't have to fear death, because death is life. Death and life are just like the same side, the two sides of one coin, you know. And we have always been taught that this is the end of her life, you know, the end of this story, the end of this. So there's nothing else beyond that.
Oh my God.
And that is frightening. That is frightening.
Yes, it is. And frightened people
Can be
can
vicious.
be vicious. Even the people who are nice, kind, consider themselves generous, can, with the right amount of fear, sacrifice with this, you know, lost mentality and become very vicious, even in their niceness. And now I'm looking in the mirror like, damn, bro. All right. All right.
Okay, I can read number 3. Sacrificing in any way is a violation of my injunction that you should be merciful, even as your Father in heaven is merciful. And you know, in the Bible, you know, Jesus, that's what Jesus said. You know, you have to, you know, what is that? You know, you have to give as your Father is giving. What's that scripture? You know, y'all know what I'm talking about. Be something as your Father in heaven is. I don't know if the word is merciful, but it absolutely fits in this. And when we think about that, if we are perfect, that's what it is. Be ye perfect as the Father in heaven. So if I'm allowing myself to be perfect, then I can't in any way see myself out. No. I have to really look at myself. Okay, y'all go ahead, because I'm not finished with that thought yet.
There's something that you said that I think is important. And because when I was looking in the Bible here just a couple of minutes ago, it was talking about how God isn't about sacrifice, but he is about mercy. And when we think about mercy, we often think about it as, you know, forgiveness or withholding punishment. However, I went to another site and it talks about how in the Old Testament, the translation of mercy is more like loving kindness, and to be gracious and to be inclined to. So when you mentioned earlier about, you know, just definitions, like that is, we just jumped into another one in terms of what we mean by mercy and merciful.
Yeah. But that shut us up for a minute, didn't it?
Wow.
Yeah. No, I was just reading the sentence again.
And I like that it says sacrificing in any way is a violation of my injunction. What does that mean? Okay, let's look at, and y'all let me know if I'm going down a rabbit hole. Y'all know I'm real keen to get down rabbit holes. So pull me back if I'm too deep. But what does that mean? Sacrificing in any way is a violation in my injunction. I mean, of my injunction. Okay, that's it. Of my injunction. What's injunction? What did that word mean? I don't know what
it's sort of like a an authoritative warning or an order.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah, and a judicial, wait, in law, yeah, an authoritative warning or order. And in law, a judicial order that restrains a person from beginning or continuing an action threatening or invading the legal right of another. And
Yeah.
I think that fits here too.
Yeah.
An order that restrains a person from beginning or continuing an action threatening or invading the right. And I'm leaving out the legal law terms, right of another, or that compels a person to carry out a certain act.
What's that, injunction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So basically, it's
Mhm.
It's a
sacrificing in itself goes against what the divine commandments or the orders.
Yeah, the order. Yeah, the order. Yeah.
Mhm.
That we are to be merciful, not sacrificial in our nature,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Say
and we
that
should
again,
be
Richard.
emulating God. Huh?
Say that again.
Said that sacrificing is a violation of the order of God, and that we should be merciful rather than
Right.
sacrificial to
Mhm.
each other,
Exactly.
because that in and of itself is us emulating God
Yeah.
rather than emulating or allowing ourselves to be led by our egos.
Mhm.
Yes, because that whole concept of sacrifice puts us in God's place. Now we are God.
Mm.
We see ourselves as
Mm.
the all in all.
Wow. So when we sacrifice, because we believe that God is sacrificing, we feel like we need to sacrifice too. So how we understand God
Mm.
plays a big role in how we understand ourselves.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It
Ain't
has
that?
been it has been hard for many Christians to realize that this applies to themselves. that's that's a wallop.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
For
think
centuries.
I think that one says frightened people can be vicious.
That's right.
Gracious.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
And
especially today in our society today, what is going on with Christians today is so, oh my goodness, where, I mean, first of all, I want to know, where is the love?
that's right. Because I
You know?
mean, Christ, Jesus was the personification of love. He was the exemplary individual that we should all, and that's why I think, well, first of all, because they followed him, that's why they were called Christians back in whenever it was, somewhere in the book of Acts. Luke talked about it. But the fact that they followed his example, they carried on his message even after he was crucified, and he came back to let them know, hey, this is the way you're supposed to be. And
Mhm.
he proved himself to be the example. He lived to be the example that we should all follow. And when I call them so-called Christians because they're not really following the example of who they claim to believe and worship.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that that's part of why religion has religion now, I think all religions now are, kind of suffering from, holding on to tradition and becoming very pragmatic. But I
Mhm.
think that also if we the more I think the more we choose to be free from that, and allow people, to, go ahead and have your temper tantrum in your corner over there. you know, have your space, and I still love you too. When we can show ourselves to be like that, I think that that's the sacrifice. Like, as sacrifice as growth. I'm, now this older part of me, we all had this, this shirt or a dress or a lifestyle or something that we really, really loved. It was so, we really loved it. And then we moved on from that. We still have the same amount of love for it, but it just doesn't fit us anymore.
Right.
Right.
And I think that if we stop seeing sacrifice fearfully, but to see sacrifice as growth, then we wouldn't have that, upside down perception.
I agree, and yet I think the issue might be a little deeper than that in terms of how we all understand what sacrifice means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which makes communication complicated, because then, sacrifice means one thing in a biblical sense, maybe something else in a metaphysical sense. Mercy means something in the Old Testament that it's something about this language that that we've got to work through. But in the end of the day, for me, what I'm beginning to realize is that whether we say sacrifice or mercy or whatever the case is, when we really get to the root of the issue, which is the ego, the unhealthy ego that causes us to have difficulty in dealing with loss, that we have fear and we have a lot of crazy stuff that happens out of that. So how we deal with loss and manage our egos seems to be top tier work. Ego and loss.
Yeah.
And
love and fear, because once we get rid of fear, if we promote love more than we promote fear, it
Facts.
would,
Facts.
Mm-hmm. And I would prefer to eliminate that word sacrifice from my vocabulary and from my life, because what I do, I'm not doing it because with the thought or with the idea that I'm giving up something in order to appease you. I'm doing it out of love from my heart, because I love you, because I want you to be whatever it is that I'm doing for you, to make you a better person and to make our bond stronger, I guess. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. And I spend time thinking about the motivation for my actions.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm willing to give up something because I love you and I care, and it's we before me. Mm-hmm. What I also realize is that things shift when I get into a mindset of reciprocity. And if I'm giving up to you, I'm expecting you to give up to me, you know what I'm saying, in some similar measure. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the second thing that's happened today that's made me realize or helped me push out of that, because I've been really pushing for the last several months against this idea of reciprocity. Mm-hmm. And everybody around me is completely opposite of that. Gracious. So this is helpful, and if y'all have some opposing thoughts to that, I'm really willing to hear it, but I'm really working through that.
No, and I agree with you, Richard, 100%, because when somebody does something for me, I I still have not gotten to the point where I feel guilty because I haven't done something for them, and I have no problem, with doing something for somebody else and not expect any reciprocity, as you said. On the other hand, I feel like I need to reciprocate if somebody does something for me. I feel guilty if I don't. And I'm trying to overcome that because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, because we do give and we do receive. And I think that a lot of this really has for me having been raised, Catholic and Black and
Man, you had a whole lot of strength to get to, and a woman. And a woman.
Over for one other thing, you really have to have a lot of self-awareness and self-confidence, even in, even through your search, because it is hard for people to realize, like it has been hard for many Christians to realize that this applies to them, meaning that, that we are supposed to, we're supposed to be filled with God. We're supposed to be just like God. We're supposed to be, that's what being a child of God is that we are little gods, but we still can't say that. If somebody says, who do you think you are, God? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'm filled with God.
But if you answer somebody in that way, then they think you're being blasphemous.
Yes. And the thing is that, when we begin to realize that being a child of God means that I am just like that. I mean, we expect our human children to be humans. We don't think our human children is going to be a puppy or a giraffe or something, or some type of insect. We know that they are humans, but we are not, we often don't allow another person to be themselves. We want to confine and fit everybody into this mold, because that's how we think we should be able to recognize one another. But we should be able to recognize one another from being who we really are.
Exactly. In other words, let a person be who they are, appreciate them for who they are, and just let it be. And the only person you can change in this world is yourself.
But you said the word appreciate someone else, and a lot of times we don't appreciate, and we don't appreciate others.
Exactly.
And that's usually based on ourselves, because if I don't like you, it's because somewhere deep down inside I don't like me, and it might not be that deep.
And that's the I have a long time ago I learned that if you really stop and think about it, what you don't like in a person that you encounter, if you take time, look in the mirror, what about that thing about that person? If you look deep down inside yourself, you'll find that aspect of that other person that you don't like is something that's buried in you that you don't like, and you're trying to forget it.
Yep, that's very true. Okay, we want to move on to number 5. Harriet, you want to read that one?
Good teachers never terrorize their students. From kindergarten to 4th grade, I went to Catholic schools. When they talk about nuns in Catholic school, they could terrorize. with just a look. With just a look.
No, with a look, with a pointer, with a ruler. they were, they were into intimidation. I mean, they had all kinds of tactics. You could, it could be torture all around the room. So,
You know,
but
you know what I thought about when you said that?
what?
The Blues Brothers.
Blues Brothers.
Yeah, you never saw the movie The Blues Brothers?
Yeah, but what made you think about the Blues Brothers?
Because they are so busy. The nuns terrorized them so when they were growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I forgot about that. Yeah. So.
And,
But
and
anyway,
look at how they quote unquote sacrificed everything to get the money to those sisters so that they could keep their
oh, that's what the movie was about?
yeah.
Oh, see, yeah, I might have to look at that one again. but that's what we have learned, that a good education is. We have been terrorized into obedience of this thing. Even if you just simply want an A, it's terrorizing. A teacher will dock your grade if you don't bring your homework in. All of that is terrorizing.
It is. And not so much being terrorized as a teacher in that aspect, but more so what you're going to get when you get home with that B or C when they expected an A on the report card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's and then you're terrorized at school, you're terrorized at home, not meaning you're not meaning actual terrorize, and just because I was talking about the nuns, I mean it wasn't a torture chamber, and then Doris Everett would have came up there and whipped we could have ripped that school off the ground. It would have been like a tornado up in there. But when we think about how we have always been, being fear-based has been our teacher since I think the beginning of time. Spare the rod and spoil the child, all of these things.
Think about Adam and Eve. Fear of dying if they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's always been our teacher. Mm-hmm. So good teachers never terrorize.
Is it a teacher or is it a controller?
Well, it says good teachers never terrorize. So
And what I would say, and what I would say is that the role is the teacher, but sometimes teachers turn into controllers.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that's where the real issue is that many, especially Christians that I'm aware of, they don't think of themselves as teachers. They think of themselves as, well, they don't realize that they have moved out of the teacher role and more into, in some cases, the terrorist role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I agree with that.
You're right about that.
Mm-hmm. And like this says, good teachers never do that. They don't terrorize it. They and when you do think about, and we've been talking basically about teachers that in a professional capacity, but just when you think about that kindly neighbor that always gave you a pat on your arm, or gave you a piece of candy that taught you all kinds of things about the world, or a friend that loves you unconditionally, or just your parent, as a great guide, so that you could understand the ups and downs of this life in a loving manner,
Right.
So those are the good, and I didn't feel terrorized by them.
And I just thought about my high school science teacher. He had a way of teaching us that, and he was a science teacher, and I was not a student of science, although I got good grades when I was taking science under him, because of his method of teaching. He would make it amusing. He would let us know when he was serious, but you got it. And he didn't use as this thing did. He didn't terrorize us. He didn't terrorize his students.
Mm-hmm.
And even when he was trying to control us, he did it in such a manner that you knew, okay, this is what he wants. This is what he expects. This is what I'm going to deliver. And he did it and his orders, demands, or whatever you want to call them, were given in such a, I would say, a loving way that you just did it because he said do it. You know, you didn't even stop to think that this is going to happen to me if I don't.
Right, right. And I think that this is, when we do think about that loving God, because something made us want to continue. Because some people can't hear it. It is no such thing, and I'm not going. I don't care about it, and I don't even want to hear it. So there's something about this energy that keeps us attracted to it. So that we can, that we will continue to seek it, and we will continue to find ourselves in it, or or allow ourselves to be molded by it. And that, I think, that's the message that we also got about God from Christianity. Me especially, because that's really the main where I came from. I got that. I got it when they said that God is love. Yeah, that's the part that I could focus on. I could focus on that because I had a very, very loving father. And because I knew how loving my father was, I knew that if God was anything like my daddy, yeah, he's really, I'm gonna follow him. So those were the things that made me stay focused. And I think that when we have organizations that terrorize you away from that concept, it is very hurtful. That this person has left this loving feeling, they have lost this loving feeling because somebody else scared it out of them. And now, if you the one that's going to be in heaven, oh no, I'm going to hell. Wherever you not going to be is where I'm going to be.
Right.
And because we have allowed organizations, and that's everybody, when I say everybody, I mean, all of the organizations, when we allow that whole consciousness to shift to brutalization has to be from under my control. I think that that's one of the things that hurts religion.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Let's see, number 6. Whose turn? Richard?
Yeah, I'll pick it up.
Okay.
To terrorize is to attack, and this results in rejection of what the teacher offers. And so so that's basically telling us that you're working at cross purposes. If your idea is you understand that you're a teacher, your role is to teach.
Right.
But when you terrorize, then you attack, and they reject what it is that you're teaching. Which also speaks to the nature of Christianity in this nation, in that and other nations.
Yes.
Because if you're going to judge me and be the jury of me, whether it's my lifestyle, any aspect of my identity or anything, then whatever it is that you're saying to me, I am going to reject. This is part of the reason why the Christian church, those pews are getting more and
Emptier
more
and
vacant.
emptier. Mhm,
Yeah, yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. And you know, if and whenever I am, if you know, whoever I am, how, whether I'm a child and you know, an adult, or you know, a teen or a young person, nobody wants to be attacked.
No, they don't.
Nobody wants to be attacked, and other people don't want to really be in around attack either. You know,
Right.
either we shut down and pretend like it's not happening because it's not happening to me, or you know, we join in on the attack so that people don't think that I'm not like that, so that you know, I'll get attacked too, you know. So it's such a psychological it's such a it has such a psychological pull to it, because if I am terrorizing you from a position of control, then I'm allowing, you know, I'm allowing you to be what's the word I'm looking for, you know, like harm, you know, what's the, I can't, traumatized. I'm allowing,
Right.
you know, I'm allowing this trauma to come into you and deform however it's going to manifest in you, you know.
Mhm, mhm.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about. Number 7, the result is learning failure.
That's right.
And that has
Because
been the class that's been existing for a long time.
mhm,
I'm sorry, Ariel, what we going to say?
I forgot.
No, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It'll come back.
If it was important, it'll come back. If it wasn't, then it won't. It wasn't important.
But you, no, go ahead. You give me to say something. Go ahead.
No,
Oh.
no.
Well, I was going to jump in with you when you were talking about Adam and Eve. You know, so from that, just from that story right there about Adam and Eve, we learned failure from that. And to me, that's the original sin, because it taught us that we all of us is less than because of that. That was what was told us. So we all had to either accept that. So we all learned that failure. You know, we all learned that, you know, because we asked the question, because a question was asked. and a thing and something happened, you can fall out of God's love. You can be such a failure. You can be such, you know, such that your children's and your children's children and your children's 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 children, this will be all caught up into your
DNA.
your DNA, in your culture, and everything you breathe and eat and live. So we can't help but live in failure, because that was what was taught from the beginning.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know, so
And to me, you have to read the stories in the Bible with an open mind and see them for what they are, and not take them as, would it be wrong for me to say absolute truth?
you can't. I just had a conversation with somebody not too long ago, and that was one of the first things that they said is that, you know, they take something from as they take it from the word of God. You know, so that means absolutely true. Whatever the word of God is, this is absolutely true, without question, without doubt, in every circumstance, in every situation.
Don't they realize that what is written in the Bible is not the word of God.
No, ma'am. We do not.
Oh, what they say? What they say is that the word is this is the word of God as translated by man.
That's right.
And this is what I think is interesting is that we will then go and pick up a 1950s history textbook and approach that from a completely different thought process.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mhm,
Yep.
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
mhm.
just gonna leave that there. I'm just gonna leave that there.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right.
You're right. Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know,
Because the
because
1950s
the Bible,
textbook does not you don't need to sacrifice anything from that.
Right.
and why can't, okay, I realize that the stories in the Bible, and as far as Christians are concerned, if they would just look at the first 4 books of the New Testament, which basically talks about the life of Christ and his work on here on earth, the work of Jesus, then fine. But they, and of course, when you look at the New Testament, and Jesus quotes the Old Testament from time to time. Paul in his epistles refers back to the Old Testament from time to time. But they are just using those examples that were given by the prophets, those messages given by the prophets and those authors that wrote those Old Testament books, and trying to help people to understand. And I mean, when you read something in a modern book, just any book, whether it's a novel, a work of nonfiction, or a work of fiction, you take it for what it says. You can put your own twist to it. That's fine. So weren't those individuals that were translating and interpreting, reinterpreting the things that were written thousands and thousands of years ago, doing the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I keep thinking that it's like you know how people say the Bible contradicts itself,
It does.
and I often say before I can say another time frame if the Bible contradicts itself, I think it's important for us to consider: does the Bible contradict itself, or does the meaning that we draw from the Bible contradict itself?
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And because even as we're sitting here and we've been having this conversation today, and we've been thinking about the meaning of sacrifice, the meaning of merciful, and how our understanding of those words change completely how we think about those words and whether they're of God or not.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's only just talking about the definitions.
Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I was just glancing at something just now that talked about the symbol of the lamb.
Mm-hmm.
And how the lamb has become symbolic with this idea of sacrifice, but that's problematic because the real symbology of the lamb. Wait, did I just? I might have just read ahead. Oh, I did. I'm sorry. I went. I was glancing at
Yeah.
section 5.
We just do one paragraph at a time.
Yeah, I thought it was something that I saw on my iPad, but I just realized that it was me going into the next lesson. So disregard. Never mind.
But we could have. I mean, we still can. If you did, you want to look at any of the manual for teachers?
Manual for teachers.
We can just kind of skim it if you want to, or
That'd be
we don't
cool.
have-
That'd be cool with me.
What,
I
the
got
manual
time.
for teachers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And
What
we
happened
were
to
in how is healing accomplished and the shift in
shift in
perception. This is
perception?
where we were coming from, where we want to be. Because we actually started like 15 minutes late today.
Yeah,
I had a grocery thing coming in, so we didn't really start until 5:15 really. So we're just because
yeah,
it's
we
six
have
to
time.
one, we really haven't we still got, actually more time. Okay, so it's four paragraphs. Why don't each one of us read a paragraph?
Okay.
Okay, I'll start off. The shift in perception. Healing must occur in exact proportion to which the valuelessness of sickness is recognized. One need but say, there is no gain at all to me in this, and he is healed. But to say this, one must first recognize certain facts. First, it is obvious that decisions are of the mind, not of the body. If sickness is but a faulty problem-solving approach, if sickness is but a faulty problem-solving approach, it is a decision. And if it is a decision, it is the mind and not the body that makes it. The resistance to recognizing this is enormous because the existence of the world as you perceive it depends on the body being the decision maker. Terms like instincts, reflexes, and the like represent attempts to endow the body with non-mental motivators. That's interesting. Actually, such terms merely state or describe the problem. They do not answer it. So do we want to kind of like discuss this whole paragraph and then move on to paragraph 2? Or
Yeah.
do we want to just read
Yeah,
all?
yeah, that works for me.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I think that what this paragraph is saying to me is that, first of all, I have to, healing must occur in exact proportion to which the valuelessness of sickness is recognized. And I just was thinking about that this morning. I'm telling you, this was my very first thought this morning, is that why am I still valuing this sickness? Why do I still value this? Why am I still holding on to it? And yeah, it was helpful at once upon a time ago, but it doesn't have to be helpful this morning. Daggone. I got stuff to do. So, and if this is a decision, I have to make up my mind. I have to make up my mind that I don't have to be attached to this level of dis-ease in my body. I can do that through my mind. And this was my very first thought this morning. So wow. Anybody else for them?
One second.
Yeah, okay. Because I kind of lost my camera.
Yeah, I thinking back to what you were saying. I agree, and it harkens me back to a previous conversation, like one of the first times I came and joined y'all when we were talking about how the sickness is of the mind and not necessarily of the body, and so in this passage, one of the things that was further revealed, at least to me, was one. Well, certainly it was a reminder of that, but that not only is it in our mind, but it's also now having to reorganize how we think of, terms like instincts and reflex. How many times we talk about gut instinct? My instincts tell me this.
Right.
And because that is continuing to put us back into the body, it kind of perpetuates what the issue is.
Yeah.
Isn't the Um, I would consider the gut instinct as being the subconscious mind, uh, uh, taking charge. When you, because 9 times out of 10, when you have a gut instinct, it is either a warning or a light bulb going on. In other words, it's the mind, that subconscious mind, trying to make you aware of something.
Mhm.
Now, I agree. The only thing is, the challenge here is trying to find the right terminology. And
Yeah.
when I think of the mind, I used to always think in association with the brain. But what I've been hearing here recently is that the mind isn't something that is located in any central location, that it is a combination of, the connection of the gut, the heart, and the brain, that sort of consciousness that's associated with those three key areas, that, not to sound too confusing, but it just comes back to, how do we understand what the mind really is?
Mhm. And I think like where it says terms like instincts, reflect, and reflexes, and I think that because kind of what you described, Harriet, to me seemed more like intuition than instinct. I think that there's some things that I was just reading a TikTok, because that's where I get all my news and information from, about some child molester, but his thing was that it was instinctual because of how he felt about, I don't know, women, children, something like that. I can't remember the whole thing, but it was all, you know his defense, that he instinctually feels this way. So when we think about giving the body that much place, even above, I mean, because even if that was his instinct, something probably, hopefully, in his, because he knew he was wrong, he was sneaking to do it, so he knew instinctually, intuitively, it was wrong, but instinctually he went on that instinct, as opposed to going along with his intuition. And I think that this is what this sentence is saying to me, is that when we believe in our instinct, when we believe in the reflexes of the, whatever happens in our bodies, we think that this is the real thing. We're moving that over to that, what it says, non-mental motivator. That's a non-mental, our bodies are going to respond to something.
Yeah.
This is what this body does. The body's going to respond to it, but your instinct does not necessarily mean that that's how you live your life. That's why we are above the animals, because we don't instinctively have to follow along what our body is what is motivating our body. We that's why we have intuition to go along with it. you know um so that's kind of what I'm seeing in this sentence is, we heal when we allow ourselves to go, to be honest. I think this is what this is saying to me. You get, when we allow ourselves to be honest. Let's move on to number 2. Who wants to read the second one?
I'll do it.
Okay.
The acceptance of sickness as a decision of the mind for a purpose for which it would use the body is the basis for healing. Let me say it again. The acceptance of sickness as a decision of the mind for a purpose for which it would use the body as a basis of healing. And this is so for healing in all forms. A patient decides that this is so, and he recovers. Excuse me. If he decides against recovery, he will not be healed. Who is the physician? Only the mind of the patient himself. The outcome is what he decides that it is. Special agents seem to be ministering to him, yet they but give form to his own choice. He chooses them in order to bring tangible form to his desires. And it is this they do and nothing else. They are not actually needed at all. The patient can merely rise up without their aid and say, I have no use for this. There is no form of sickness that would not be cured at once.
See, that's what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about right there. And that's what belief is. That's what faith is. That's what, it is, that split second decision of your mind that this is the thing that I believe. That's,
Right.
I have shifted my perception into seeing any form of fear, and now I only see what I want to see.
Mhm.
I'm not going to see the fear at all. And then, and that's the thing with, and this is how each one of us should be for each other as well. Because, a sickness of the body is going to affect us,
Mhm.
mentally, psychologically.
Spiritual.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It was just today I was reading, it was an advertisement for a book, and I do have one of this woman's books. She's an herbalist. She has a PhD in botany, I think. I forget now what, but she is well read, well educated, and she has published this book about the lost herbs. But the book that she was pushing on the article that I was reading today was had more to do with wild or weeds for using for cure. And what caught my eye is the fact that she, at an early age, she was young, when she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I had a cousin who had multiple sclerosis, and I had a supervisor who had multiple sclerosis. And I know how devastating that can be on the body. I know with the supervisor that I had when I was working, if she so much as got a sniffle, she was non-functional. She had to take to her bed until she was better. And the same thing with my cousin. She got to the point where she was actually wheelchair bound, and she eventually passed away. But this woman that wrote this book, she was talking about how she began to do the research. She did not accept this diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, and she began to do the research that was necessary in order to help her body heal. And how many times have we heard about people who have been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer?
Mhm.
They go to the doctor. The doctor says, well, you need to get your affairs in order. And that individual is, hey, I ain't gonna let this thing defeat me. And they begin to do whatever they feel is necessary in order to make their bodies healthy again. And the next time they go to the doctor, looks at them and says, wow, there's no sign of this cancer.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So, basically that the acceptance of sickness as a decision of the mind for a purpose for which would use the body is the basis of healing. So if you want to have that sickness and there's a reason for it, if it serves your purpose, then you will accept it.
Right.
If you see that sickness as something that's getting in the way of what you want to accomplish, get out of here.
Mhm.
I don't want to have nothing to do with you. Get away from me.
Mhm.
Right. Right. That's right.
Yeah. You want to read number 3, the third paragraph, Harriet?
Okay. Yeah. What is the single requisite for this shift in perception? It is simply this: the recognition that sickness is of the mind and has nothing to do with the body. What does this recognition cost? It costs the whole world you see, for the world will never again appear to rule the mind. For with this recognition is responsibility placed where it belongs, not with the world, but on him who looks on the world and sees it as it is not. He looks on what he chooses to see, no more and no less. The world does nothing to him. The only thought it did, let me read that again. He only thought it did, nor does he do anything to the world because he was mistaken about what it is. Herein is the release from guilt and sickness both, for they are one. Wow. Yet to accept this release, the insignificance of the body must be an acceptable idea. Wow.
Yeah. And, I think that, for me, when I see this, it, because some people are born blind. Some people are born without arms and born without legs, and, and we normally see them as lacking
Handicapped.
something.
Yeah, handicapped.
Yeah. And our perception is we project our perception on them that, that they are abnormal.
Right.
And so when we shift our perception, because most of the time, babies born without legs, they just simply use their feet.
Exactly.
They don't even think, babies who are born blind, they learn how to adapt, because that is what it is for them.
Exactly.
But when we keep projecting our fears on them, that energy stays out there. And if we want to project anything, we should be projecting that shift, that healing, that everything is good, everything is perfect. There's absolutely nothing wrong here. That person might still be blind without being able to see, but they would be able to see everything from a different, maybe from their third eye. They would need to look at things from our limited perception of things. They might be able to see into the fourth and fifth dimension. If we opened ourselves up that much and stopped being and allowed truth to be itself.
Right.
And people that we label handicapped don't really see themselves as being handicapped. And I know this from personal experience because I was born extremely nearsighted. My parents recognized the fact before I began to walk, and I was a late walker. I don't know if it was because I was a heavy child or because I couldn't see. But all of my life, I have never considered myself handicapped until one day I was thinking about it for whatever reason. I don't know why, the thought crossed my mind, but I thought, well, I could be considered handicapped, but I don't. I don't consider myself handicapped. An inconvenience, maybe, but not a handicap. So when we put labels on things like that, and we tell people, some people will fall for that, and others will say, hey, that ain't me. So
I would say, and I say the same thing as in the historical sense. Much of this I use in the same way when I talk about our ancestors. That when we define them in a certain way, we somewhat handicap them and place limits on them. And then because we use the past to determine the present, we handicap ourselves in the same way.
Mhm.
And you're absolutely right.
Mhm. Oh, cool beans. Okay, let's see. Who wants to read number 4?
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With this idea is pain gone forever. But it is with this idea goes also all confusion about creation. Does not this follow? Does not this follow of necessity? Does not this follow of necessity? Okay. Place cause and effect in their true sequence in one respect, and the learning will generalize and transform the world. And the transfer of value of one true idea has no end or limit. Hmm. The final outcome of this lesson is the remembrance of God. What do guilt and sickness, pain, disaster, and all suffering mean now? Having no purpose, they are gone. And with them also go all the effects they seem to cause and effect, but replicate creation. Seen in this proper perspective, without distortion and without fear, they reestablish heaven. Now, woo,
Mm.
Mm. Hmm.
ha.
I mean, it's pretty clear cut.
But
But if I can kind of chime in first, and I think this really has to do with Harriet. You had mentioned earlier in our conversation something about cause and effect. And I think that when we do put cause and effect into its proper perspective, we stop looking at fear. Even if we're just saying, okay, this is the thing that caused it, and this was the effect of it. When we are actually truthful about both of them and allow them to be what it actually is or was, I don't have to transfer a value onto it. You know, the Native Americans were diminished in their population because of
the
Western
disease,
civilization.
the diseases that were introduced into
Cut
this
and dry,
system.
whatever.
Yeah.
However they introduced stuff, whether it was disease, cruelty, whatever. That was the thing that ended that. And if we just allow it to be what it is, we don't have to, put any extra energy or any extra, connotations onto it. Just let it be cut and dry. This is the cause and this is the effect. Now, what can we do from here? What can we do to end this pain so that it is gone forever? And I think that when we allow truth to be truth, and we accept that that's what happened and what it is, and we allow ourselves to want to heal from it. Just start off with that. It says, but with this idea goes also all confusion about creation. When I realize that this pain is gone forever, I don't have to be confused about anything else that comes after that, because the pain, I already know that the pain is not going to come back anymore. And I kind of think that this reminds me of what forgiveness is. That
Mm.
once something is forgiven, the pain of it is gone from me forever. So my boundaries are set. you know Truth has been told. Everything, we all understand the whole understanding of it is here. It's all plain and simple, and no pain has to be experienced through this. And I think that that stops a lot of confusion and guilt, sickness, and all of that kind of works in for me. What do y'all see in this?
Um,
For me, it just kind of really comes back to this whole idea of the illusion and or the illusion is probably just as much a lack of understanding, because we've all had this illusion based off of our upbringing. But it's really about coming back to this point, and I think I see it here. What do guilt and sickness, pain and disaster and all suffering mean now, when they have no purpose? Because they don't have a purpose when you understand who you are and where those things come from, then they're gone. When that happens, it's interesting to consider, this being the lesson, the true lesson of who God is. And I think to Abad's point, where God exists. And as I've been saying to people, this kind of ties to something I've been saying, in that, the idea that God is around us and God is in us, and like we're in God and God is in us. And it's something that I've been really toiling with, because I think we continue to separate ourselves from, God. Which makes it difficult sometimes for me, because most times I don't even refer to God. I'll talk about the universe and spirit and divine, because I know many people, when I say God, they think of some bearded dude on some throne somewhere looking down, yeah,
right.
like we all Pinocchios getting puppeted around.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks like that, because I just feel like, and I tend, and I'm trying to get myself out of the habit of using the word God, because it does bring about a certain image within the mind, wherein you think about unity, universe, creator, source,
Right.
spirit, that you don't have any preconceived idea of what it looks like.
Right.
And you just think of it as what it is, really,
And this, and just as it says, seen in their proper perspective, cause and effect here, right there. Without distortion and without fear, they reestablish heaven. And that brings us right back to where we were in from the text, is that when we what was it? I just had it. It was just right on the tip of my tongue and I lost it. But anyway, when we allow ourselves, when we don't see sacrifice as a loss, but we see the growth of it. The seed died so that the plant can grow. The crucifixion and the resurrection happened within the same time period. So if we stop to see things as only being separated, that is the cause and the effect of it all. The mercy, the mercy came because we thought we experienced pain. So yeah, this fit right in. This been what we were supposed to read this about what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks, 3 lessons ago.
I think so.
Yeah, and it fit right in with where we are today. Fit right in. Well, that's it for today, ladies and gents. Oh, let's see. Are you going to be here this weekend, Richard? Or
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. No, I won't be here.
okay.
I will have to end up going to Springfield. So I got a new project assistant that's working with me on my schedule.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna get with her. Tomorrow's Thursday.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm supposed to meet with her tomorrow, and I'll make sure my schedule is up to date, and then I can circle back around to you at another time frame.
Okay, okay. Well, okay, well, thanks for letting me know. So let's just real quick do a roundtable real quick. What did we get from today's session, and how can we apply it to our lives?
Oh yeah, so I'll start. Um, our concept of sacrifice is flawed,
Yeah.
socially, and when we finally understand that sacrifice involves this mentality of loss, then we see how it's connected with the unhealthy ego,
Hmm.
and um, and how that contributes to this notion of fear. Fearful people can be vicious. Um, I was also intrigued by the idea of the conversation that we had around reciprocity,
Hmm.
and what that and the role that that plays in this, and something that I keep thinking about. I've been thinking about since we were talking about that is, can appreciation be enough? Can we be okay with somebody appreciating the acts that we do for each other? And then the last piece being, just about the good teachers, never terrorizing their students. And that makes me reflect on my role, whether it's in a professional or personal capacity. I aspire to be like a lighthouse. I don't want to tell nobody what to do. I just want to do good, allow people to see the blessings flow, the joy, the happiness, the means by which how I navigate, the dark and the light, and allow people to see that as a model. And so, in a way, I think I'm starting to think of myself more in the light of a teacher, and that also means that I need to be more careful in how I quote teach unquote, so that I don't push people into a sense of rejection against what it is that I'm trying to advocate for.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. How about you, Harriet?
Where do I begin? Um, they, yeah, where do I begin? um, One of the things that I got, especially as we were going over the text, is that whatever we do, we shouldn't, and maybe that's the wrong word, but we don't do whatever we do when we do it out of love, it's not a sacrifice. And when we do things out of love, we don't expect, it's unconditional, is what I'm basically trying to say. And we don't expect any kind of reciprocity. So if I can personally, if I can just see what somebody does for me, that they too are doing it out of love and they don't expect any reciprocity, I have to condition myself not to feel guilty when somebody does me a kindness, whether it's a material gift or whether it's an act of kindness. I just, I want to get to that point where that I can look at a gift and accept it for what it is, the kindness and love of the giver, To me, that was the biggie for today.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think what I got
Right.
from it too, it's that whole thing is that it's okay to challenge the status quo. It's okay to, just come out there, just as bold as it is, uh, God doesn't have it. God doesn't even see sacrifice like this,
Mhm.
and if and not if, but if I can always be that bold, if I can always be that bold and to know the language, but not only the language, but the body language, the whole everything that goes along with having to explain, in a very articulate way, so that I get my point across, nobody's offended, we all can see things open for conversation, but you know I can be bold enough to say that this is the truth as I see it. I'm not going to let you, I'm not, I don't have to stop you from having your truth or anything else. But in order for me to have my truth, I have to change first the way I perceive things. And I can't perceive something from a lack consciousness at any area, at any level, because God is without loss. That whole concept of source, it is without loss. There is no loss. The thing that what the water, as the water drops off into the from the waterfall, it runs to the sea. So there is no loss. It is only a temporary mindset that I have to change so that I can be more in alignment with that. So I really got that from the day, and I really got from the idea of that, that yeah, I am a teacher. I teach people around me all the time. But what am I teaching them? And am I teaching them fear? Am I teaching them this level of boldness? So I think this is what I got from the class today. And I just want to thank you guys for being here, hanging out with us, and that we're getting this, we're getting it done. Okay, well, it's 7:00, so we're going to real quickly. For this weekend, we have our tarot session. Oh, I'm sorry that y'all. So Harriet, you don't know whether you can make it, and Richard, you don't know. Well, you can't make it. So, I'm But anyway, we're going to have a great time. We're going to discuss all things tarot, from what to look for in the deck, how to cleanse your deck, how to make spreads. We have several guest speakers. We're going to have someone that's going to come in and teach us how to channel how to open our intuition so that we can be proper channels of truth and light. We're going to have people come in and show us how to do body positions so that we can put our bodies in alignment with our minds. And then we're going to have some Joy Tramiel. She's going to come in and she's going to talk about tarot, and she has a tarot business, so she'll be working from that. Let's see. Also, well, we don't really have anything going on Sunday. What is Sunday? Is this the fourth Sunday? This would be the fourth Sunday.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So we probably, well, we already did Kabbalah. We're going to do tarot. I don't know. Sunday, we'll see what we're going to do on Sunday. So that's going to be kind of open. And we might,
open discussion.
Open discussion, or we can just do something we haven't done in a while, like about. I wouldn't mind doing a.
When was the last time we did a journal?
Didn't we do? I think we did the journal first. We did.
Yeah, I know it's usually always the first Sunday, but did we do it?
Yeah, we did it. Because that
Yeah,
was based
okay.
on what we had done from the actually from your thing. No, from I think Kabbalah. So we backed it up to the next. We had a two-parter. One part was one thing, and the other part was the was journaling. But we'll figure it out. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
we'll figure it out. We are absolutely not limited to anything here. Anything
We're
goes.
we're flexible.
We're very, very flexible.
Yeah.
And I like that, you know, how eclectic we are because everything fits in.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's pretty much it for this week. And so would anyone like to close us out in prayer? Harriet, would you like to close us out? Thank you.
Yeah, well, let us close our eyes, taking a full, deep, cleansing breath. And imagine us being surrounded by a white light of love and protection, keeping us safe from all the negativity that's floating around in the atmosphere, resisting that negativity and keeping us safe and comfortable with warm, loving arms. And let us be grateful for all that we have learned and discussed today. And take what we have learned and discussed, making us better individuals, better teachers, better students. And what we learn, we can pass it on to those that we meet in our daily journeys. Take the knowledge, the wisdom, and understanding that we have gained and use it for the betterment of society. For this, we are grateful. And so it is.
And so it is. Okay, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Love you.